Things are starting to make a little sense. Switch over to nano-communication so nobody can listen in.
Yes, sir. Do you read me, sir?
Yes.
Mr. President, it's my understanding that the terrorists have managed to input the code sequence necessary for launching a nuclear strike.
That's correct. I punched the sequence in myself.
You're working for them?
If you asked me 2 hours ago, my answer would have been yes. Right now, they're keeping me alive until my vital signs are reconfirmed.
They betrayed you?
I wouldn't quite put it that way. I wanted power. They sought destruction.
But why stoop to terrorism?
I wanted absolute power.
But you're the president. You have power.
No, I'm just a figurehead.
Huh?
I don't have any control. The real power is in the Patriots' hands.
The Patriots?
The truth behind this country. I'm not surprised you've never heard of them. Very few are aware of their existence, even among those with code word clearance.
Huh?
Politics, the military, the economy, they control it all. They even choose who becomes president. Putting it simply, the Patriots rule this country.
No.
Hard to believe, isn't it? But it's the truth. The space defense, income tax reduction, and national missile defense programs. Every policy that's been credited to me was actually done according to their instructions.
Space defense was initiated by Congress.
That's what the Patriots want the country to believe. It's all a show. Democracy is just a filler for textbooks. Think about it. Do you actually believe that public opinion influences the government?
No.
This country is shaped and controlled as the Patriots see fit. The people are shown what they want to believe. What you call government is actually a well-staged production aimed at satisfying the public.
Huh?
Don't look at me like that. I'm legally sane, you know.
It's not your sanity that worries me.
The Patriots. Even I don't know who the actual members are. Are they financial, political, or military leaders? No one knows who the Patriots really are. Even my instructions come from a cutout. All I've been told is that every key decision is made by a group of 12 men, known as the Wise Men's Committee.
Your office? The White House?
Merely puppets, pawns in a game. By pledging my loyalty, an insignificant son of a senator was awarded the presidency. Of course, that wasn't the only price I had to pay.
What do you mean?
Even if a pawn becomes a queen, it is still just a playing piece. I wanted to leave my own mark in history, but my ambitions were... You'll understand someday. I wished to be a member of the Patriots. I wanted to wield the power of a king instead of being an expendable pawn.
And that justifies acts of terrorism?
Yes. I'd intended to use the new Metal Gear as a bargaining chip.
Bargaining chip?
But I underestimated Solidus. He actually wants to challenge the Patriots, even if it means the destruction of the world.
What are you saying?
Whether you believe it or not, the balance of power rests in the hands of the Patriots. They regulate the country's various interests through controlled presentation, staging a drama that is palatable to the general masses. Can you imagine what would happen if they ceased to function? Picture a massive political vacuum, a space that every powermonger will try to fill for their own greedy ends. I'm talking about an unregulated power struggle, panic, civil war, chaos. Like it or not, the Patriots is an organization that must continue to exist.
So you changed your mind because you wanted to avoid global chaos.
Exactly. When I told Solidus that I wished to prevent disaster, he replied that pawns can never become players.
And who is this Solidus?
My predecessor, George Sears. That was the name the public came to know him by. I knew him by his code name, Solidus Snake. He was the third snake, preceded by Solid and Liquid, a survivor of the Les Enfants Terribles project. Neither Solid nor Liquid. He was a well-balanced masterpiece that the Patriots saw fit to entrust with the presidency. However, he fell out of grace with the organization 4 years ago. When acting on his own, he started an incident.
4 years ago. Shadow Moses.
That's right. At the time, the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, together with certain influential parties, initiated the development of Metal Gear Rex and an advanced nuclear warhead. However, this did not fall in line with the Patriots' plans. What's more, Solidus decided on his own to send his most trusted man, Ocelot, to provoke Liquid Snake, bringing about the said incident. As a result, he succeeded in obtaining Rex and the data on the warhead. But in doing so, he ended up revealing the existence of both Rex and the Genome Army, a blunder that earned him the wrath of the Patriots. Shortly thereafter, Solidus was removed from the presidential office.
I thought he resigned.
That's the story given to the general public. Following his resignation, the Patriots selected me, their new pawn, for the presidency.
But that would mean that the presidential race was...
That was quite a show, wasn't it? It was a well-scripted drama staged by the Patriots for the benefit of the public. Even the Democrats and Republicans were dancing to the Patriots' tune. Everything went according to plan, but for one exception. Following his resignation, Solidus' health was scheduled to fail him, bringing about his untimely death.
Capped?
Correct. But before the Patriots could execute their plot, Solidus went underground with the help of Ocelot. As he avoided pursuit, Solidus gained control of Dead Cell, winning over Colonel Golukovich's outfit. From there, he bided his time, knowing that his opportunity would soon arrive.
What opportunity?
The completion of the new Metal Gear project, an opportunity that would even his odds against the Patriots. By stealing the Patriots' most valued project, he would be able to place them in a very uncomfortable position. It's the only chance he has for survival. Once he has the new Metal Gear, he'll declare war against the Patriots. Needless to say, he must be stopped.
Metal Gear is already operational.
No, not yet. What you saw was Metal Gear Ray, hijacked 2 years ago from the Marines by Ocelot. That was not the new Metal Gear.
Then where's the new Metal Gear?
Right here.
What?
You're standing in it. To be more precise, this entire big shell facility is the new Metal Gear.
What'd you say?
No, I'm quite serious. The upper structure that you've seen is camouflage, designed to represent an offshore cleanup facility. The main structure extends from the foundation all the way down to the ocean floor. The connecting elevator is located on the B2 floor of the Shell 1 core. Arsenal Gear. That's the code name for the new Metal Gear.
Arsenal?
That's right. Arsenal. We're talking about an impregnable fortress carrying a load of over a couple of thousand missiles, including nuclear warheads, all protected by a horde of mass-produced Metal Gear Ray units.
Mass-produced?
The Ray unit was originally designed for the Marines to be used as a countermeasure against the Metal Gear variations throughout the world. The Patriots had Ray redesigned to protect the new Arsenal Gear.
So now anti-Metal Gears are guarding a Metal Gear.
Ironic, isn't it? That's not all. Arsenal Gear has full access to the military's tactical network, giving it the ability to exercise absolute control over our nation's armed forces, not to mention our nuclear armament. In short, Arsenal was created to be the core of our country.
What kind of idiotic weapon?
Weapon? No. You're not seeing the full picture. Arsenal Gear is more than just a military tool. It is a means to preserve the world as it is. It will establish a new form of control. The Patriots will use it to keep their place as the country's true rulers. Right now, they feel pressured and threatened.
By what?
They fear an overabundance of digital information. The world will drown in the coming flood of information, and they along with it.
He's talking about the age of information. He's talking about the internet age. where you have this overabundance of information, whether it be misinformation or correct information. It's just an overabundance of it. You're talking about the element of this internet age. And when it comes to these things that we understand about us, about the truth, part of that is based off of the age of information. And it's one of those things where they can't necessarily combat it because it's something that comes from, their system. It's something that comes from their algorithms and artificial intelligence. That's the arsenal, So it's very important for us to understand these coded analogies and conveyances just when it comes to the world at large and the operation system at large. It's all based in the manipulation. It's all based in things that are nefarious. You know what I mean? So it's very important for us to maintain our understanding in regards to what's going on out here, the age of information, and that's that threat. That's that aspect of how it can be something that can go and work against the favor of the power structure because it comes from them when it comes to the age of information, the artificial intelligence. But these things can backfire against them based off of what comes from it. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. And let's just go further into the coverage of Metal Gear Solid and how it's comparable, or is just letting you know what the true intentions are in regards to artistic license, the expression of the truth. Metal Gear Solid 2 received acclaim for its gameplay, graphics, and attention to detail. However, critics were initially divided on the protagonist and the philosophical nature and execution of the game's storyline, which explores many themes such as memetics, social engineering, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and the internal struggle of freedom of thought. Now, memetics, that's just another name for a meme. That's where meme comes from. And it just goes back to the Charles Darwin philosophy, just when it comes to cultural evolution. And he's someone who pushed that evolution theory, which is nonsense. But, the whole meme concept, which you see on like social media, it goes back to Charles Darwin. It's just based in this sort of like cultural relevance when it comes to the repetition of something that you post with an image that's shared. And, it's like a common belief or some sort of like common understanding of what the meme is presenting or conveying. It just goes back to Charles Darwin when it comes to the philosophical element of evolution and culture, right? It has since been considered to be one of the greatest video games of all time, as well as a leading example of artistic expression in video games. And it's one of those things where it's like art imitating life, where you see certain things play out now that was told in the video game, especially in regards to the understanding of these presidents. President means presidere, means to sit in, to preside. And, President Johnson lets you know, which is a play on Lyndon Baines Johnson, he lets you know that he's not in control. He's not in real control. He's controlled. He's under control. The president doesn't really sign off on anything. It's really the board of trustees. It's really the higher powers than even the president. They control the president. The board of trustees, the elite, the quote unquote Illuminati heads, they control the president. They sign off on all these things. The president is just a figurehead. That's all he is a figurehead. The people that's in power are the ones that are not seen. And they are the ones that are like Zionists and, they're the Caucasian Jews. They control the money, so on and so forth. The media, it's them. Those are the ones that's in power. The board of trustees. The game is often considered ahead of its time for dealing with themes and concepts such as post-truth politics, fake news, alternative facts, synthetic media, and echo chambers that became culturally relevant in the mid to late 2010s. And yes, it has, definitely has, especially when it comes to what has taken place, around that time, from Trump, being elected to, all that political stuff, all that social engineering with the Black Lives Matter and all that nonsense. Especially going into 2020, where it really like took off, just when it comes to the implementation of this nonsensical, illness, this airborne flu-like, disease. And then they want to, introduce this jab that wasn't properly vetted over the course of years, forcing people to take that. over a disease that has a recovery rate of 99.9 for certain people of a certain age. Like, you know, that is all agenda driven. I know I'm going off a little bit, but you know, that's what it is when it comes to this world. Everything is revelatory, especially from these sources of what we deem as entertainment, like a video game or, you know, just your regular favorite show or whatever. They show you these things. That's the world we live in. You know, the holders of the truth, they show you certain aspects of what it is just when it comes to, you know, these sources of entertainment from which they control. Even if a pawn becomes a queen, it is still just a playing piece. Yeah, the president is a player. You know, that's what that sentiment is. You know, the sentiment is based in what his position is as a leader, to where the masses actually believe that the president is the one that's the leader. You know, you have a lot of simple-minded people who are under that impression that, you know, you're a president, you're in power, you control the world, you control the country. No, he doesn't. Not to the degree that you think. It's actually the board of trustees. Those are the ones that are controlling things. That's why this sentiment is so important right here, because not even just a president, even people that we look at as like high profile, or they're in high positions, high seats, those people are controlled unless we don't see them. If we don't see them, then we know that those are the ones that are in the power. You know, for the most part, like, we can see certain people where we understand them to be in a really, really high position, but for the most part, you don't see them. So here in this scene where they talking nano communication in regards to President Johnson and Raiden, Johnson is letting Raiden know all these things in regards to him being allied with the people in power, but it's at his expense, because he understands that he's just a golem. He has to do these things. In order for the president to gain power, he has to pretty much do things, you know, at the behest of the people that's over him. You know, he has to subvert himself. And it's one of those things where it gives you a clear-cut understanding of how things are really operated in this society. When it comes to the people that we do not see, we see the president. It's the people that we don't see. It's the hidden ones. You know, it's the enlightened ones, the people that's in big, big seats. The president is in the big seat, but not as big as the seat as the ones that are over him. And that's what's broached here. That's what the understanding is here, is that the figureheads that we are accustomed to seeing and putting on a pedestal, we don't understand that those are not the real ones that are in power. It's the people that we do not see. It's the figureheads, the hidden ones. On the negative side, because we know the positive aspect of the hidden ones just when it comes to the spiritual. You see, the Metal Gear is just a metaphor for control. It's an embodiment of control based in, you know, the enlightened aspect, as far as what they push on the upper levels, the quote unquote Illuminati. That's what it represents. That's what the Metal Gear represents. And just when it comes to what was broached in regards to the president not necessarily being in control, and it's really being the Patriots, you know, the president is pretty much like a capitulator to the Patriots. He capitulates to the orders of the Board of Trustees or the Illuminati or the heads that are above him, making him a true patriot in regards to, you know, the utterances here, because he's someone who's willing. He's someone who's willing to partake in anything in regards to the president. He's willing to, you know, go off for orders and complete missions and tasks at the behest of the people that's in a higher position than him. And that's what it's all about. That's why it says here, you're a true patriot. Meaning, you're pretty much a true golem. You're a true follower. You're easy to control. You know, and that's what the understanding of the Metal Gear is, just by extension, just when it comes to the metaphorical bent. And even in this world, by extension, it's almost like we're under this Metal Gear, you know, like this Metal Gear Solid element, where we're like Raiden, we're naive to what the power structure really represents. And I say we in mass, obviously I understand, but Raiden represents the masses. You know, when Raiden and Lyndon, when Raiden and President Johnson are talking, it's like a dynamic between someone who is a revelator, someone who is giving him the game about what the truth is. And this person that's being given the game is naive to it because it's so hard for him to really take in. It's so hard for him to really believe. Then he starts to adjust to believing, right? You see, this exchange between Johnson and Raiden is like the penultimate scene leading up to the S3 plan. The S3 plan going into the Snake simulation, where Raiden is pretty much controlled by AI. And it just goes into the understanding of the Kodak breakdown or the Kodak meltdown, which represents the penultimate endgame aspect of Metal Gear Solid in regards to the artificial intelligence and how it's the last element of control in this society. Now, we already know that the people in power, we cannot see these people, but they control the AI and all these things. We know that Bill Gates, we can see him, he's in power, but he's another figurehead as well. He's in massive power, he has a lot of money, he has a lot of control, but he's another figurehead as well. The people that's in power, we cannot see. We cannot see. So just going into the element of the Kodak meltdown, it just goes into the understanding of the plan that was pretty much overtaken by the artificial intelligence, just with the aspect of the S3 plan. You know, the S3 plan is also an allusion to Operation Snakebiter. Operation Snakebiter was a CIA, operation back in, like, I believe 1964 or something like that. But it's just all in all, it's an allusion to the serpent. That's what it is. So just when it comes to this exchange that I keep going over because it's very, very important just in regards to what this is expressing artistically. So what you call government is actually a well-shaped production aimed at satisfying the public. Yes, because what it's meant to do is keep people at bay to where they actually lend or not lend, where they pretty much, they depend on the public in regards to the golem, in regards to the sheep that's out here. They depend on the government. The government depends on the public, and the public depends on the government just in regards to the aspect of these things that control the world. When it comes to AI, a lot of people, they actually depend on AI. They actually uphold AI because it's something that's used to replace certain aspects of, hard working and actually finding things yourself and so on and so forth. Like, I'm not really too big on AI like that. Like, I don't use Chat GTP or none of that stuff. It's just something I don't really get into. But AI is everywhere. AI is ubiquitous. Just using the phone is AI. But just going into the element of how it's more extensive is what I'm, getting at. But yeah, the Kodak meltdown is like the penultimate element of the end game, just when it comes to Metal Gear Solid, because it lets you know that, the people that's in power are really controlled by what's hidden,
The idea is simple. The system controls you as long as you are all the same. But if everyone starts thinking outside the box, the system won't have enough rules or methods or hands to spank each and every one. You are torn between the romanticism of stubborn opposition and the desire to adapt and conform and survive. That's when you get a sock in the jaw. You're just a speck. Get to the back of the line. But pay attention. The most subtle and the highest revolt is merely the ability, in any situation, to always remain true to yourself and proudly carry your identity like a flag. This has nothing to do with a sense of self-importance. One can be small while remaining big. I forgot whose quote that was.
The Kodak meltdown in Metal Gear Solid 2 refers to a significant plot device and thematic element in the game. It's not a literal hardware malfunction, but rather a simulated psychological breakdown experienced by the protagonist Raiden through the manipulation of the AI controlling him. See, when it comes to the S3 plan, Johnson already let Raiden know what was to come in regards to the overtake of AI. So the Kodak meltdown was something that was already, I guess, should have been foreknown just in regards to Raiden, but he was someone who was overtaken. And it's almost parallel to these days that we see now. Well, a lot of these people, they go down this rabbit hole in social media. You know, they get overtaken by all these things that are meant to pretty much be like a microwavable assistance tool. You know what I mean? Like it's meant to assist you in a way where, you know, it stops you from actually like getting into the trenches of doing work, getting into the trenches and digging in the crates of doing the work, which is more of appreciation, you know, but it's still cool in regards to the elements of AI. It's just when it comes to, you know, what Metal Gear Solid is pushing in regards to artistic expression, is just letting you know what was to come from that time. You know, Metal Gear Solid was around like what, 2003, 2004 or something like that. So you have all these different elements of predictive programming when it comes to these sources of entertainment, like video games, like TV shows that we sing, like books that we read. Just further letting you know, further legitimizes the fact that we live in a staged world. Jim Carrey even lets you know, we live in a stage. We live in a stage. And it's very important for us to make sure with that understanding that in the back of our mind, we still lean on the Heavenly Father. Because without all this evil, there cannot be any good. That's why we know that the Heavenly Father is someone who is here. He's someone who is, you know, blessing certain level of people, certain amount of people, and so on and so forth. We know the truth. We know the ubiquitous element of the Heavenly Father. And, you know, we just have to be grateful that he's still preserving us and he's still, you know, with us, because that's what it's all about. But yeah, man, we live in this world that's full of lies and deception, and, you know, they really let you know that the powers that be are, you know, it's almost like they're untouchable, and they can only be touched by the spirit. They can only be defeated by the spirit.